Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and we're going to continue our discussion position by position, going to the offense. Conversation got a little long on defense. I figured this would be a long conversation, but didn't want to make it too long, so there's a natural break between offense and defense. So let's start it back up with the offensive side. I will say check out the defensive one to see kind of what we're doing, or if you want a little intro or whatever. But yeah, so anyway, let's jump over to the offensive side. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to start with the quarterback. I'm not going to go there yet. Let's start with the O-line, favorite subject. So as I mentioned before, if you're new or if you didn't listen, because people love to argue but don't want to listen to responses. But my thought process behind the offensive line, as I said, most of the year, and I continue to go back and forth with people. People live in hyperbole. I don't care that you're a fan. I don't care that you know what I mean. No, you use hyperbole. People exaggerate. So there was one point where people were going absolutely crazy with the blame on the offensive line. It's one thing to say, oh, they all suck or they're complete, this and that. It's another thing to try to act like, oh, well, everybody else is great. It's just the offensive line is messing it up. So that's when I started the series on the O-line. That's not true. The film proves it. If you don't want to watch the film, then don't have a discussion about it. The film proves it. Nowhere near as bad as people were trying to make them out to be. And it's funny, as I mentioned before, because then people will say, oh, man, you defending the O-line, man. You don't know what you're talking about. Why are you defending the O-line? Yet, I was the one that criticized the O-line before the season and got all the backlash as well. So, as I said, going into the season, as I've said throughout the season, I was concerned about the O-line going in. Massey, a big dude, maybe a little bit of ability in the run game, but overall, never been a good player. Never understood why we signed him. Never understood why we kept him. That was a big problem to me. Kyle Long, very injured. Very good chance he wasn't going to hold up. And very interesting things happening in the training camp that it made me question. Either way, even if he was perfectly fine in offseason, I was worried about his health. And so when we didn't make any real concerted effort to have somebody ready behind him, I criticized that after the draft and got a lot of pushback on it. And then after the free agency, once again, as I mentioned, I like Alex Bars and Mustafa from Notre Dame because Harry Hiestand coached those guys. I like when a coach gets his guys or, other players get players they're familiar with because you can get the most out of them. But they were undrafted. I wanted us to see more resources, put more resources into it. But we didn't. And so I was all for the James Daniels going to center and Cody Whitehair going to guard. Still think Cody Whitehair is not a center. The man doesn't even snap right. He does a dead snap. Like, that should tell you that he's not a center. And so I was all for that. Getting James back to his natural position, Cody back to his natural position. Nowhere near privy to what issues James was having with the communication and all that, but there were issues. And this was coming to bite me back a little bit in the butt because I usually, when I do the draft and stuff, if there's a player that I just don't have tape on, like, I'm pretty like, okay, I don't know. And I felt that way about James, but there was so much hype from people that I actually trust that this is probably the best center prospect. And I still thought Billy Price was better. And so when we got him, I'm like, from the little bit I saw, I know athletically what he brings. I don't know everything else because I didn't see a lot of tape. And so this might have been something that was on the red flag. I don't know, but it seems like mentally he hasn't got it together. And so we know how that worked out. And then Charles Leno, I always said, average to above average when he's really good. But other than that, probably could still do with an upgrade. But with a good quarterback, he'll be fine. So came into it with the O-line like, yeah, not great. some interesting pieces, but really scary. And now we saw how that played out. So going through, Massey has been hurt. Lucas has been way better than Massey. Lucas has been so much better than Massey. And I won't stand on that hill because I haven't watched the film to like compare. But in real time, what I'm watching, I think Lucas has done a lot better than Massey in pass protection. And a lot of it is just ability to move the feet. And I mean, not even ability, a lot of times just effort. And Massey doesn't make no effort to move his feet. And so there's that. Massey, I've already said that should be done. Coward, absolutely terrible. Horrible. And I remember when Kyle Long was struggling, put Coward in. When Cody was struggling, put Coward in. I don't care that he's a D lineman. He's got attitude. At least he'll give us something. Yeah, he gave us something, all right. He gave us a bunch of sacks and blown up run plays. Like, he is absolutely trash. And really the manifestation of my worries when I talked about Kyle Long not having a real backup. And on top of that, we should never kept Coward. We have Ted Larson, who's a veteran swing guy. It's hard for me to believe he's worse than Coward. Very hard for me to believe. Now, the thing that I do know is that Nagy wants to be more horizontal with the team as far as the plays we run and the screens and all that. So having athletic linemen lends towards that. So Rashad Coward's a lot more athletic. And I bet you that's what they were banking on. But he has no technique. He's terrible. Cody Whitehair, again, still don't think he's a center. But he's solid. He's really solid. People kind of maybe blew it over the top after his rookie year. I think he's a solid player. I don't think he is the amazing player a lot of people tried to label him as. Do think he would be better at guard. And while he's probably the better run blocker out of this group, still not a power guy. And I've said this for the last few years, actually. We don't have power blockers. And so the schemes that we run doesn't lend itself to what we have on the offensive line. And so it never made sense to me that way, but whatever. So James Daniels, already talked a little bit about him. He'll be going into his third year, much like Bilal Nichols, as I mentioned. Third year is where you really start to formulate that opinion. A lot of eyes will be on him as well. I don't think he's hot garbage or any of that like people say. I am shocked that Harry Heathstand, as credible as he is, has not got James in position to play. And there's a lot that could still go on outside of that. I know, trust me, I'm the one that's always about context. But at the end of the day, I got to look at my O-line coach, one that's revered as him and that we put so much resources in to get him. Why is James Daniels not playing better? I need to know that. And so Charles Leno, I for the longest time, I've said I'd be fine if we upgraded there. But these last few games, I've started to say, like, that's the type of play people accused him of earlier in the year. I put the film on. His play has not been this bad, but the last few games, it has been. It has been pretty terrible. And so, resources on it. It's funny. I've been saying the same thing. I said, hey, I don't think we're the dumpster fire people say we are, but we're not great at all. We need to upgrade. And everybody, we need more. We need better offensive line. I'm like, I just said that. That's the same thing I'm saying. And so that's been the story. As far as this year, it's tough. Yes. Okay. I'll get to Trubisky in a little bit, but I will say it has not helped Trubisky, especially for the level of quarterback he is. As far as the run game, I've said this before. There's a three-way blame on that. There's actually four-way. There is some like bad O-line play, but there's worse schemes as far as like how the schemes are being drawn up or executed. Then there's terrible tight end play. And most of the run game that I've shown you in the video, it's not Adam Shaheen. It's not Burden. It's Broniker. It's Holtz. It's these other guys. And so again, that kind of goes to the scheme, but the tight ends don't do well in the run game. And then it's the running back. The running back, especially when we run a lot of zone, not a lot of good decisions. So a whole mix in the run game. Can we stand to be better on the offense line and be better? Yes. That's like those are like the D-line. If the D-line is upgraded to top-notch D-line, that's going to change things. And same thing with the O-line. Now, it doesn't always mean anything. We know Dallas, we've seen with elite O-lines not go places, but it does help to have better O-line talent. So I'm not going to sit here and say they tanked the team like some people try to claim. I do think definitely we should upgrade, and I've been saying that before the season started. All right, so speaking of run game, moving over to running backs. Tariq Cohen, man, I don't know. Recently, I don't know. I wouldn't even say I changed my mind because, look, I've known, and I think most of us now know what Tariq Cohen is. As a runner, he does not have vision. But as an outlet player, he's dangerous. And look, he's small. That matters. Like, yes, he can run routes. He's really amazing at catching. But it limits what you can do down the field. And we'll talk a little bit about that with the receivers. It limits what you can do. It just does. Like, him being that small, it limits. Like, I would love for him to have what he have athletically in a Cordell Patterson body. But he doesn't. And so as much as I would say just keep lining him up in the slot like, he's Tavon Austin or Tyreek Hill or any of these other guys that were kind of hybrids, he's not built for that. Now, we can still use him there and use him in different ways, but when it starts talking about a lot of money, I don't see no reason to pay him a lot of money. Great punt return, all that, but had been as good as his catching ability is. He's had some concentration drops this year, and as a runner, he gives you next to nothing, and so it's tough. It's definitely tough when we're talking about going forward with Tariq Cohen, but 100% in these type of offenses in 2019, there's ways to make him effective. I don't know if I trust our brain trust to do that. David Montgomery, I've been talking about him. He's got a lot of potential. I like him. I like him a lot better than when we drafted him. Even though he wasn't my top rated back, but I forgot which number he fell, but he was my most underrated back. So I really enjoyed him. And he looks like he lost a little bit of weight. It was a little bit more shifty coming into this season, a little bit faster, but pretty much kind of the above average speed I figured it'd be. And so there's a lot of talk about his vision. In the videos, we do the run breakdowns. There's a lot of talk about his vision. I don't know that he needs to be a zone runner. And that's what we're built to do, even though we don't use as much zone as we could. We do the most bootleg, booty, optimal version of inside zone just to do it, just like any other college spread team. But to really have a zone scheme, that probably would help the current O-line, but I think we retool this O-line. We need to get a little more power-based. Because then he can go downhill and he knows he's a gap runner. Like, okay, we're running whatever. We're running blast. We're running this. We're running that. It's going through the B gap. That's where you're hitting it. If it's open or not, that's where we're running the ball. And then hopefully we pop it and, do something. I like him in the open field. He doesn't get there a lot. I like him in the open field. I like him as a pass option, but yeah, just that zone, he has not shown the vision for it at all. And so I don't think that's definitely something he could work on. I don't know that you could ever become great at having vision, but I don't think he's a waste of a player either. I think there's certain schemes, like I always say, most players are scheme dependent. I think there's a certain scheme that would make him a lot better. All right, the wide receivers, the boys. I always loved this group. I always said it. Allen Robinson has surprised me. Now, he's been force-fed. Let's not get that twisted when we talk about numbers. Trubisky has said himself, he's a guy I trust. He's my number one option on each play. He said these things. He will put the ball up to Robinson if he think he has a chance because Trubisky's scared, and he goes with what's safe. And so he's been forced the ball. However, that does not change his route running. Even if the ball's not thrown to him, you see the ability to run the ball or run the routes. You see the ability to run the ball after the catch. You see the 50-50 ball skills. Like, everything I've seen from Allen Robinson coming out from Penn State, I've seen this year, plus better route running. Like, always pretty good, but was never this type crisp route runner. So he's evolved, and I think he's a great option at receiver. And with I don't know, I wouldn't say elite, but I don't know the word because people are so 0 or 100. I forgot what the words are anymore. But with a really good quarterback, I think he would light some people up. So he's been held back a little bit in with these stupid schemes, but have no problem with Robinson. A-Bomb, Anthony Miller. We gave up a lot. And honestly, I love Anthony Miller. I think he has, for the most part, displayed everything that I thought he had skill-wise. But he has not been as dominating as I thought he might be. And part of that happens with the rest of the offense and those different things. But not as good as I thought he would be, but a great player for us. I think Anthony Miller is still a really good receiver in this league. And as Trubisky start to trust him more and more, then we start to see what he was able to do. So there's that. Taylor Gabriel receiving a lot of hate, which is weird. I don't understand why. Man has speed for days, fastest receiver on our roster. The man has great route running, just like Anthony Miller, and he's more athletic than Miller. When you got the things that AB brings, Tyler Lockett, any of the other smaller receivers, the thing they bring is that it's very hard to cover them, two-way. You got to kind of force them into a tunnel in a zone, because if you try to go man and give them a two-way go, it's going to be very difficult to stay with them. A Tyreek Hill is another one I'm thinking of. And so Taylor Gabriel has that type of ability where the inside, outside, and very dangerous that way. A lot of drops. There were plenty of times Trubisky didn't make the passes easy, but a lot of drops. So definitely give him the knock for that. But to act like he's not a viable number 2 option is silly to me. Now, I'll circle way back with this receiver talk later when I talk about Trubisky, but Javon Williams didn't show much. Riley Ridley has not shown much. Cordell Patterson has been what he's always been. I mean, I hear people keep talking about how great he is. I'm like, y'all do realize he's been on how many teams? And he has not made it as a receiver. There's a reason for that. Now you could do the gimmicks with him. We see you could toss him the ball out of the backfield. You could throw him a short pass and try to let him turn to a punt returner. You can do jet sweep. You can do those things. But as a pure receiver, and I think he's gotten better. Trust me, I watched this man coming out of Tennessee, but he's a big running back. That's what he is. And he's getting slower by the day. So Cordell, I love him as a special teamer, though. Not just as a returner, a full special teamer. If we were to move on from Tariq Cohen, I'd like to see him be our punt returner. So I have no problem keeping him as a special teamer guy and a little bit of a gadget guy. But I don't, move the needle for me as a receiver. And again, Williams and Ridley, we got a little bit glimpses of them. And I said we haven't seen much, but I'm not writing them off. I mean, they weren't high round picks, but I do think when push comes to shove, if they gave a chance, they could be something. I mean, receiver, as I said, is the new running back. I've been saying that for years with the draft. At this point, any receiver really can turn out to be something if you put them in the right situation. Okay, tight ends, the favorite conversation. I'm not even going to spend too long on this. I don't care. I'm not going to lie. I don't care. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's J.P. Holtz, Broniker, Horsted going what further? Yeah. Going ahead. I don't care if it's Burden. I don't care who it is. Tight ends, much like receivers, it's, dime a dozen, to be honest with you. Now, there's some things that the top flight tight ends do better, but it is what I've said this, and it's so annoying to hear people keep talking about it. Tight ends in play action and zone coverage feast. That's what they do. Even the top tight ends, that is what they do. Most tight ends aren't coming out here in man coverage unless they pushing people off. They're not breaking anybody's ankles. They're not, burning people down the field. It's just not happening. They get schemed up to eat the middle of the field, which is the easiest place to throw, which is where all offenses attack people now. It does not matter. You could be faster and run after the catch better. But other than that, if you could catch the ball, that's it. Look, Jason Witten came back. And Jason Witten still eats. It does not matter. I don't care if it's a first round pick. Look at OJ Howard, first round pick. Probably one of the best tight end prospects I've seen. He's not destroying the league. It does not matter. It matters how you scheme a tight end up. That's all that matters. Shaheen could look great. Burton could look great. Everybody's like, oh man, what happened this game? How come the tight ends aren't doing what they did last week? Dumb question. Because like I said, you threw a wide open screen. You did a scheme to get them open. You threw a skinny post against a cover 3, a soft cover 3. That was a scheme to get open. Zones, play action. That's what tight ends do. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's anyone on this roster. I don't care if it's a 7th round draft pick, an undrafted free agent. I don't care if it's I don't care who it is. I think if we don't scheme it, if Trubisky doesn't throw down the ball, then it does not matter. It does not. Simple and plain. Woo. Okay. So, Mitch Trubisky, the last to talk about. So, I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to take a screenshot of this. But as I mentioned yesterday, I realized that when trying to see if this will fit. Yeah, it'll barely fit. So I realized yesterday, every year, because this is a draft channel first and foremost, but I realized that, my first video on YouTube, because I still did this before, it was about Mitch being drafted. And so while all my other draft stuff is on here from the drafts after that, my draft stuff from that draft wasn't uploaded because I put a link to the Google Drive and all my draft videos. And so this draft wasn't up there. So many people haven't seen what I wrote about Trubisky, and I thought it'd be interesting. I'm sure it'll cause a lot of headaches for me, but whatever. This is what it is. And so we can kind of look at where we are now and all that good stuff. So I'll put this up, but I'll go through some of the main things and kind of react to it. So I gave him a level 4.5 arm. That's out of 5. So not a top flight arm, but just below that. Basically, to me, usually a 4.5 arm means you could either throw with good velocity, but you maybe can't throw down the field super far, or vice versa. Maybe you could throw down the field really far, but you don't throw with good velocity in the intermediate, something like that. But, still really strong arm that can get to an out route in the NFL without getting picked. Was never under center, a little bit of pistol. So typical spread offense, a lot of read options, quarterback runs back in the day. Very good arm slide, nothing great, but good. Loses velocity with poor lower body mechanics. inconsistent transferring power from base to arm. And if you haven't followed my draft stuff, you could watch that this year to learn more about what all that means. But basically talking about lower body mechanics, doesn't bring his lower leg through consistently, uses arm too much. So those three things pointing out that when his feet don't get together and his lower body isn't tied to his upper body, he doesn't transfer that power to his throw. And so his velocity isn't as impressive when he might be off platform, falling back, things like that. And so interesting to bring that up. Good feet in the pocket, quick feet, I should say. Good pocket awareness, quick to sense pressure, but doesn't diagnose well, meaning that he is quick to feel like the pocket is collapsing, but does not understand where to step up. So he might step into sacks and not step to the open space. Above average pocket manipulation, very mobile, doesn't find open space well, just what I said. Can be a play creator and play extender. Wasn't exactly his game, but he could be. Drops his eyes when scrambling. Mainly throws to his first option, will get to second and third reads on scramble drills. Good thrower on the run. I like the great to short, medium accuracy when the pocket is clean. Good deep ball accuracy, but overshoots, meaning when he misses because he throws it too far. Has real velocity issues. Timing will be off against NFL speed. Throws too late. Will stand in the pocket. Delivers throw under pressure. But a bad tendency to throw while falling back because he trusts his arm too much. Poised against pressure, but accuracy is extremely affected. All right, so when I look at that and back in the day, I have to say it's pretty accurate. I mean, not even to say accurate because this is an evaluation of him in the college game. This is not the evaluation of him right now. What you would like to see is that you go through this list and you like to see, well, that has got better, that has got better, that has changed. When I look at this and I think about Trubisky, I can't say a lot of this has changed. And this is his third year. And as I keep saying, third year is when you really make that distinction. Some people are like, oh, well, he didn't play the full first. So what? Like, he played a lot of games that full first year or that first rookie year. And so anyway, finishing up his third year, I look at some of this stuff, and this is Trubisky. This is definitely Trubisky. This is what I've seen from him still to this day. A little bit has changed, but not a lot. Now, let me go to the best fit, which is what I start doing because that's what it's about. It's about saying potential, but it's really about what supporting cast would be best. Trubisky's best fit is a vertical passing system that uses crossing routes to attack the deep middle and seams. Trubisky will need a very strong position coach that can reach his potential. Trubisky will be best with top-tier speed in the receiving core. Trubisky will need an established O-line that can give him the most time to read plays. Trubisky should get the chance to compete for a starting spot. So, a couple things stand out to me. A vertical passing system that uses crossing routes. And remember, this is years ago before crossing routes and over routes was super popular. But that's what's best. And you see some of the big plays that we've had recently. Anthony Miller on play action crossing routes. Or somebody going vertical crossing routes. Stuff over the middle because it's easy to read. O-line, established O-line that gives him the most time to read plays. Think about what people are complaining about right now. Our offensive line doesn't give him enough time. Showed you on video, that's not true. The time is pretty consistent. However, that quick 3 to 4 seconds that is the NFL average is not long enough for Trubisky because he doesn't process well. He needs more time to process to make a better play. So I wouldn't say any, because some quarterbacks with too much time actually play worse. but most of the time when you get more time, it's better for a quarterback. So that's a given. But even then, this is what I was talking about with Trubisky. He needs more time. And so do you all of a sudden say, O-line, you're giving him the average amount of time to make a play, but he needs more time, so therefore you suck? No, that's not how it goes. Like, they're not great on the O-line, but you can't sit here and act like Trubisky isn't part of that. It's what he needs, because he's not elevating them, so he needs them to elevate him. And then as far as the receiving corps, so we got pretty good speed. I was talking a lot about Trubisky's ability to put the ball down the field, but not accurately and overshooting. And so I was talking about elite speed, where you have guys that could run under and catch up to his throws, because really he was just an overshooter. And honestly, since then, he's been a little bit of an undershooter. Not sure why that is. Probably, to do with the pocket, but he used to overthrow a lot. And I was like, man, he needs faster receivers that can catch up to those. But the one thing that I didn't think about that I think about now is like with Mac Hollins, and I forgot that other guy's name. He was pretty good, but he didn't end up being much in the NFL. But the guys that he did have as receivers that I used to talk about this with Teddy Bridgewater. He needs big guys with big target radius and guys that can catch, the ball in a number of spots, because he's not super accurate. And I said that about Teddy Bridgewater because his ball sells. His ball still kind of sells. It just tends to be higher than it should be. And so he always had taller receivers. And so it worked for them. And so, but with Trubisky, he's not going to be on spot. He might be behind you. He might be a little too high, maybe a little too low. He needs bigger targets with good catch radius. And so the reason I bring that up, because I think about Anthony Miller, Taylor Gabriel, Trey Burton, what we were able to surround him with. And maybe that was not the best for him. Definitely good speed, and they can get open, but he's not accurate. And smaller guys don't have that same catch window because they're smaller. They're not as long. They're not as wide. And so you're talking about, not to say Travis Kelce because he's like the best, but just a big target like that can really box out and make safe catches for you. That's something. Like Shaheen, his size, but, someone like that he trusts. And then Allen Robinson, the guy he trusts, quote unquote, the best receiver because he gives you the most range. And so looking at kind of what I'm breaking down from his draft, that's something that we definitely wanted, that we probably should have been looking at. Now, as far as Trubisky going forward, I've made my comments on that many a times. I don't think anything has changed, from, that moment, because I figured out, what I think he is. I don't know him personally. I'm not in the building, so I'm not claiming to, but based off the information I see from him, I don't think his mental, process is right there where he can become what we need him to be. So that's what it is. So anyway, that's it for all that. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about all that. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. Remember, stay up and bear down.